Hello and welcome to Net That Haul. I see Bella is very excited to be here with our special guest. It's the Gameweek 2 Matchup Show with Bradley Currie, FPL Schofield as he's otherwise known on Twitter. Welcome. You've been a hauler for years, haven't you, mate? How is it to be here on the ship as the deckhand today?
Oh, it's awesome. It's very surreal going from a viewer and then being like crazed fan. Like, I got a shout out one year, and then Chris messaged me, Marin messaged me, like, fancy coming on? I was like, yes. So yeah, here we are, come full circle now, eh?
Love that. And of course, I'm FPL Nima, and I'm joined by the rest of the crew at Net That Haul. We've got Gabriel at FPLens on Twitter and at FPL Mariner. So thank you for tuning in live tonight, everyone. Obviously, there was the first ever reviews show yesterday. If you didn't check it out, see what you think. It's a sub 1 hour episode, which is unheard of from Net That Haul. So definitely worth a shot. And you can see Gabe's rant if you haven't already. So yeah, good to see you.
As unheard of as an on-time start for Net That Haul. As unheard of as an on-time start.
Two well, 24 hours. Cool. All right, we've got a philosophy.
We're only 6 minutes late, boys. That's okay.
That's a lot better than normal. Yeah, that's true. Well, obviously here on the thumbnail for any of the podcast listeners, if you missed this out, the main thing I should say is I know Chris has been gasping over it for weeks. He thinks it's the greatest catch he's seen in cricket history. And obviously you caught that ball. And I was seeing people quoting it in football terms as a 0.02 XG, like if it was a catch. So I enjoyed that very much, Brad. So for anyone who doesn't know, obviously on the thumbnail, we've got the photo of you for player of the match. You're a Scottish international and play for Sussex as well. So I've just found out my friend said his dad played for Sussex. So I've told him to do some digging up on it. I'm going to find the dirt, Bradley. I'm going to find out. But no, it's amazing to have a professional sportsman here to talk about FPL with us. I just want to talk about your FPL skills before we go to your philosophy so people realize how deep it is. But not this year even. Like, so obviously, like I know you came 1K like in 21, 22. And then you came 1.8K in 22, 23. So two top 2Ks in the last 2 years. That puts you up there, I reckon, in the top 50, top 100 managers in the last 2 year period only. So it's amazing to have you here straight after that catch. And obviously you're great at FPL too. So we need to find out what you can't do. And that's why I'm finding the dirt on you.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of stuff. But because I saw like a lot of the people on Twitter talking about like their 3 and 5 year ranks. But 3 years ago, I didn't really play it like I do now. So I'm waiting to hopefully have a good year this year. And then we'll see where my rank is at.
Go for that number 1 3 year rank if you can.
We're all going to be there. FPL Harry's got like 3rd and his ranks have been unreal. I think better than mine. But one good year this year, who knows? So
yeah, so I don't know who asked me in the chat. I think it was Gabe. He was asking, do Brad's high ranks coincide with him being a hauler on Net That Haul? And I just kind of spoke for you and told him yes. I was like,
they actually do.
I was like, I'm sure.
I think that's the message that
I love that. It's so nice to bring people from the community in onto the matchup show. So let's do what is customary this season, which is get an FPL philosophy quote from all our guests. Again, if you're on the podcast, 3-minute 40 timestamp, I recommend come in and have a look at the photos, not just the kind of player of the match and trophy, but just general photos on the field. So Gabe is going to get a lesson today in a cricket test. But apart from that, we have your quote from Inzamam ul Haq. So do you want to read it out for us for the podcast listeners?
Yeah. So my quote, like you said, is from Inzamam ul Haq, who was ex-Pakistan captain. And he says, cricket is a team game. No individual can just say he can win it on his own.
I love that. I know that Chris and Gabe had some thoughts on this, but for Gabe, what do you think about it as a cricket man? What do you think about it?
Me? You're going to me first? Damn, man! I'm walking the plank right from the beginning, huh? No, I think like with this, so in the vein of like Brad's high ranks coinciding with him joining the hauler community, let's say, we're all kind of products of our own community. And, we have our little ecosystems. We have the people that we talk to. We have the people that advise us. And, the winners of FPL or anytime like we consider ourselves successful or whatever, it is largely because of the community around us. And, it's like kind of in the vein of like it takes a village. to raise a child, and it takes a village to get through a frigging FPL season. I'm trying to be good. I caught myself. I'm trying to be good. That was PG. That was PG. So yeah, I think that this one's about like I read it as community oriented.
What about you, Chris?
I thought that was really a silly point, Gabe. I really thought it's a silly point. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think it's a bit of a googly, all this. Maybe you're a Chinaman. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a Chinaman as well. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, these are all little cricket terms, Gabe. So what I want to know, I've got a question for you before I respond on this. What I want to know is when the umpire calls over, right? What does he mean? Does he mean, right, he's calling the end to a day's play? Does he mean the batsman's innings is over? So in other words, he's got out. Like in baseball, when you're out, you're out. When his bowled is allotted 6 balls and the play must continue from the other end, or he's just saying, "Oi, come over here." What do you think it is?
I know the answer, and but I have a question as well.
No, you answer the question first.
I'll answer the question first. Fair enough. So it's B.
Wrong.
whatever B was, I don't remember what B was. The one that said innings. The one that you said
the innings is over. No, it's actually incorrect. It's actually Brad, because Brad is a bowler, right? Not a batsman. So like a pitcher. When you've got a pitcher. Now the only pitcher I know of normally in the old days was Pims. A pitcher. He'd be pouring a drink out of a pitcher, right?
That's a drink, yeah.
Yeah, but no, a pitcher, your baseball, but Brad is a bowler, and a bowler bowls 6 balls, unless it's this new silly format, but it's not. This is 6 balls, so that's an over, so there you go. So
isn't everybody a bowler? Don't you rotate and everybody bowls?
No, it's not rounders or anything like that, or whatever it is. I don't know what game it is. What do they all bowl? I don't know, but they certainly don't in this. But I digress.
Documentary. They said in a documentary.
He's done his research.
Chris, I digress.
FPL now. So we've brought in the cricket, but we have somebody who's epic at FPL too, which is what's the crazy part.
Yes. But I need to get to this point, really. Cricket is a team game. No individual can say what he wins it on his own. Brad, I have absolutely no idea how this refers to FPL. But don't worry.
I'll explain
Don't worry, because I have no idea what Gabe says every week anyway. So please do, before I tear into Gabe again with another multi-choice cricket question, please do let us know where you're coming from with this.
So obviously we've all been spending summer drafting our squads and everything, and the main debate for pre-season was like whether to have like Salah and Haaland or Trent and Haaland, or like how we're shifting around our premiums, whether Kane was going or staying. And so I was kind of I was clutching at straws. I was put heavily under pressure because the Net That FPL Philosophy slide is massive. Like I think everyone loves it because it just causes carnage for you mainly. But the way I was going with it is kind of looking at a balanced squad in FPL and not just having like 3 premiums, but trying to split the money and create like a squad that's going to get you the most points rather than just having a couple of good players that will just get some nice hauls, but then the rest of them will just blank. So trying to push the FPL as a team game, and we're not all just captaining Haaland basically. So hopefully some people are sort of getting what I'm getting at there.
I'm pulling you. Like I did sort of like get the idea of spreading the wealth and not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. I mean, just this picture in the bottom corner. I know you. I mean, obviously we do have listeners as well. What was this? Was this a captain haul?
So this, it should be. That was me after Gehi got his clean sheet confirmed against. Was it Forest? It was Sheffield United. Sorry.
Right.
So that was me. But that was actually that was my T20 debut. So that was those 2 are from that game.
Nice. I love that. Cool. All right. Why don't we go to Gabe's philosophy? Because we're 10 minutes in and there's still another philosophy. And then we'll go straight into the matchups by about hopefully 12 minutes. So I'm giving us 2 minutes, but let's see how this goes. I think Chris has had his carnage.
I'm coming back yet.
So this one's from Herb Simon for the podcast listeners.
Gabe, you're muted.
American social scientist, my bad, and economist that said this back in the 70s, kind of like predicted what was going to happen with the wealth of information in the digital age. And he said, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. And this one is kind of like, it fits with last week's philosophy as well. Like when we're seeing, we just had a wealth of information from game week 1. We went from knowing nothing to what we think is a lot now, just because compared to nothing, it is a lot. One of the best segments in FPL content that I like is the cheaters do 10 things we think we think. And we think a lot of things right now. We think we've learned a lot, but this is really only the tip of the iceberg. So take all of the information, including everything we say today, just with an open mind, because all of this is going to change this weekend. So yeah, don't lose attention because you are distracted by all of the information coming through. Sift your information.
I love it. Chris is
there's all sorts of stuff going on in the chat. Yeah, apparently I've been accused of abusing Brad now because he's saying he's not a batsman. I saw you take that catch. Ben Stokes saw you take that catch. He called it filth. He called Ben Stokes tweeted. Do you know who Ben Stokes is, Gabe?
Nope.
No. What about Dinesh Karthik? Do you know him?
Sounds important though.
Yeah. No. Just the England captain. But look, this one, I always love this, Brad. He sat on the toilet. I don't know whether you do your FPL sat on the toilet. I quite often do. A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. I think there's a backstory to this, Gabe. I can't help think the axe is waving somewhere in the distance. Is it?
I've got a final
hanging
question
off my
for
shoulder,
you.
maybe.
I've got a final question before we go to the matchups from Rubber Ducky. Why does your man on the toilet not put his feet on the floor? So
I think his toes are on the floor. I think his toes are on the floor. Maybe one of these Japanese toilets is just a bit higher up. You know, the one which warms your backside. That type of one.
It's Rodin's fault. It's Rodin's fault. Rodin's just sculpted him this way.
Is that who it is? Oh, I have no idea. Don't ask me.
All right, so we're going to go to the matchups, guys.
I just thought it was some geezer on the bog.
So that statue is The Thinker by Rodin. It's in Paris.
Is it? All right.
Yeah.
I just thought it was some geezer on the bog he'd picked this picture up from somewhere.
Well, it is now.
Few seasons in, he's learned about it. Now on to the matchups for game week 2. As I say, there was a review yesterday, so you can check that under 1 hour. The guys did it with FPL Teacher. But now we're going to look ahead at the fixtures in game week 2. We're starring all the questions as we go. I see a few questions about transfer ideas this game week, for example. We'll do that in a live Q&A at the end. Generally, throughout the chat, I'll also put your messages on the screen and we'll just kind of bring you up throughout the show. And if you talk about the specific matchup, we might answer that question there and then to deal with it when it's topical. But yeah, the first game of the game week is the Friday night fixture, Nottingham Forest at home versus Sheffield United. And from here, my responsibilities to steer the slides forward will be handed over to you, Mariner.
Right, fair enough. Well, I mean, only yesterday we were actually reviewing a load of fixtures, a load of results. So now we're back to predicting. Brad, you're back with us. You froze. I thought you were actually getting rather depressed about the fact that I said that you don't bat. But anyway, you did freeze for a minute. Anyway, listening to this, I'm going to come to everybody on these points because I think obviously. I think Nottingham Forest against Sheffield United, I think for the first time might have a bit of relevance because I've seen a few people with Nottingham Forest assets probably strategically placed for this fixture, and I'm not surprised. NetxG likes it as well, Gabe, 1.88 against Sheffield United, 1.04. I think not many games Forest will stand out. I think this might be one of them. Fixture difficulty likes them 2+2. Central zone matchup, really favourable for Forest by the looks of things, although, again, pinch of salt. The matchups, the XG, big chances, shots on target, everything lights up. Shot goal predictors don't, Gabe. Awonyi, why doesn't he start? And why is he 6.5? Is he 6 million or 6.5? I think he's 6, isn't he? Or is he 6.5? I think he might be 6.5.
0.5.
I really like him. I just dare bring him into my team. But this is the week I would have him, quite frankly. Gabe. Mute.
I think I prefer. I'll get used to it someday. I think I prefer Brennan Johnson's speed against the kind of like the aging that back line of Sheffield United. I want to use physicality could come into, like I wrote it there, like he could be involved with physicality, but usually like physicality is about like a one person thing, and one person against a back three doesn't typically work out. So in this one, I prefer Brennan Johnson, but a lot of people are wondering whether they start Turner this week, for example.
That's right. That's right.
I think it's a bad start, because if you look at the shots goal, the goal predictors, if that's low, that means few shots, so not many saves. But for example, NetxG has Sheffield United above 1, so you're looking at puts maybe likely a goal with not many shots. And that's kind of the case for both of these sides. So I actually don't like Turner this week at all because of that.
Do you prefer him?
Do you have any of these players?
But do you prefer him to Pickford is the question for many, I think.
Yes, I think so. That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, do you own Turner? Firstly?
Yeah, so the goalkeeper is actually a touchy subject for me, because pre-season I was actually on Leno and Flecken all pre-season, because I was like, I was seeing everyone go with Onana. I was thinking I can get ahead of the curve here and try and be a little bit different. And then when Turner was confirmed, I actually re-looked at it and I thought, okay, maybe I'll play it safe. So the long story short, I'm on Onana and Turner, and I'm probably about 95% sure I'm going with Turner. I actually think this will be quite a low-scoring game. I could see it being 1 or 2-0 to Forest, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think I'm a little bit hotter on Turner than you are, Gabe, and not only because it's my surname as well, which means I've got to play him, and let's face it. But in real terms, I know how the inner workings of the NetxG is, and of course, it's not thinking about Turner. It's thinking about other goalkeepers from the previous years, right? So we're still very early on this. So I think I'd be prepared. I can see what it says. I can see it thinks there's going to be a goal, but I'd probably be prepared to oppose it. I do like Forest. I really like Awonyi. I think Gibbs White is probably the talisman, though. And yeah, I do like them, but I think the only one I own is Turner. So I think he's probably going to get a run out over Pickford.
Have you seen
Nima, is he getting a run out for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. He's in my team.
Yes.
Pickford this week. It wasn't even a thought, like instant bus team Friday night change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, fuck this. Even before Pickford conceded, I was ready to commit to this. And I like the idea that the data without context would lead you in one direction. But I think we need to wait at least, we said, we've not even had one home and away game each team.
No,
obviously,
that's exactly it.
Yeah, all the metrics are built on home and away. So it's like the home defense versus the away attack and vice versa. So in the NetxG and the FDR, we probably need to take some of this with a pinch of salt, and signings coming in still, the window's still open.
Well, it's last year's data. It's last season's data.
Yes, it is. We haven't even updated it because we can't update it because, we just haven't even got new data for all the teams yet. So we'd be treating some teams differently to others. So we can't do that. So Gabe and I had a bit of a chat about this earlier. But, look, at the end of the day, as we said, data is data. Context is the key about all of this. And this is where we bring in people like Gabe and fantastic FPL players like Bradley as well, far more consistent than me.
Just on that, I watched the Arsenal Forest game. I know obviously it's probably going to be a slightly different game for Forest, where they were 5 at the back, sat very deep, especially with the midfield as well. But you'd probably expect the owners to be on them in this game, but I can still, like you say in your script there, they were pretty solid at home. So I'm pretty happy back in this. And you look at the alternatives with, say, Pickford for some. Villa are scoring at least 2, and whatever Pickford's getting in saves, I think will be about the same anyway with Turner.
Yeah,
I think when it comes to Pickford, I think you're right, Brad. Because it's not like Villa take a ton of shots either, right? And Villa are going to score at home. They're going to come back pretty strong. So when you're comparing it to Pickford, I agree. Maybe Turner's the better call because of the matchup, because of the fixture. But some of the others, like there's some questions like, well, maybe we should just go through them really quickly. Flecken, Johnstone. I'm starting Flecken over Turner this week. Away to Fulham. Sorry.
We're all starting
Fulham.
Turner.
Yeah,
it's going to be painful.
Yeah. Well,
Johnstone.
we'll
Yeah, you probably
see.
start Turner over Johnstone, right?
I don't know. So
I'm
playing him over Pickford
against Arsenal.
I'd play Turner. I think Sheffield United they created about 0.03 non-penalty XG at home last week.
Yeah.
We have 70% Turner, 30% Leno from Cohen in the chat as well.
Yeah.
I think let's go to the next matchup.
Good against Spurs.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? But he said Brentford looked good against Spurs.
Brentford were good against Spurs. I know it's at home, but yeah, I think play Turner. That's my final decision with that.
Yeah, I think we've all decided anyone who comes later to the stream and asks in the live Q&A, we'll put them back to this timestamp. And on that note, we'll go to a more exciting fixture. Brentford, as you mentioned, away at Fulham. So let's go through this matchup.
Yes, Brentford, NetxG, Brentford loves them. 2.45, but it likes Fulham for a goal as well. So, again, that Flecken side of things remains to be seen as to whether that would be wise. The the fixture difficulty is pretty neutral. Doesn't really see an awful lot. Same with Zonals, apart from Fulham down the centre, but who is that these days? XG for the matchup for Fulham, it's 1.6 against Brentford, 1.4. These are all matching up against one another. Shots on target for Fulham is lighting up at 5.7, but not off the scale. And the shot goals and shots on target predictors gave as well. Nothing much. What do you see here? Do you see a Brentford comfortable win, or do you just see, 2-1? Maybe suggest 2-1. Okay.
I don't see a comfortable win for Brentford. I mean, they are a lot of this data is Fulham with Andres Pereira as well, and they don't have Andres Pereira, and that's definitely going to hurt, and they're going to have to kind of resort to more I don't know if devious is the right word, but alternative tactics like that long ball. They used to hit that long ball to Mitrovic and then pick up the second ball. So I see Fulham doing something like that, but I think Brentford can deal with that. What I see here is like you look at Brentford's creativity at 3.8, and that's why their net XG is so high. It's because of their big chances. They have like Arsenal level big chances. That away 40 big chances, scored 18. Just for comparison, Arsenal had created 44 big chances, scored 17. So they score a large percentage of their big chances. So that's why NetxG likes them. And I think there will be chances on that smaller field. I'm hoping. I like that. Brentford's left side. I hope Wissa plays on the left because he can run into space on the left there, and I think Fulham are quite weak on that side, as Lucian discussed yesterday in the review show. So I think Fulham's right side is something to target, and the reason for that is because they overload their left side with creativity. They bunch their players on the left side to kind of like build the play forward. So the right side defenders are often left isolated, and I think Brentford can kind of plays to Brentford's strengths at hitting them on that left side. So it's not really showing up there in the zonals, but I think in this one it will play out Brentford's left.
Brad, do you own any Brentford assets?
No, I was actually against Mbomo. Again, I'm quite keen on the Chelsea Gameweek 3 swing, and so mine was I like Matoma versus Luton last week, and I think Wolves actually surprised me against United, but yeah, I stuck with Matoma over Mbomo.
Yeah, he looked lively though. This is the thing. I think he's
Yeah, I
probably
know. But
he's,
it's a
he's
dodgy
likely to get
penalty,
involved this
so
week. It was, and he'll probably hit the post this
yeah.
week because he didn't last week. So there's another thing.
2
Nima,
weeks I'll be
what about you,
playing
mate?
Premiership.
Yeah, Nima,
No,
what about you?
I have Mobuemo in a couple of other formats, but not in FPL. I think I'm okay. I see what the data is saying, especially the NetxG, but I think the FDR is much closer. So I probably tend to agree with the FDR for this matchup. I'm not convinced necessarily. I think Brentford did a great job in their match, like the way they played, but I also think they played a team that lacked like a critical edge. I think Spurs were very good from set pieces rather than open play. It felt like the way they were creating. So I honestly think that I'm going to look for like a draw here, like a London derby, 1-1, something cagey like that. I'm not convinced Brentford will blow them away personally, but I suppose it depends. Those with Leno, we were talking about, Turner. If you had Leno at home to Brentford, well, what do you do there, right? Like, are there any owners of both in the chat? Because everyone else who owns every other goalkeeper seems to be playing Turner. But I'd love to know what the Leno people are doing who got 12 points like that against us in game week 1. What a game. Oh man, that's painful. But
They were lucky
Yeah.
though.
very.
It was a lucky 12 points when I watched it back. Like the drop he had on Tarkowski. There was a chance from Patterson as well. Just hit the bar from like 5 yards. It was an open goal. Like
Everton just somehow
myself,
couldn't
but
just finish it off, right? It's a
classic
painful one.
Everton though, isn't it? I
It
think
is.
both teams are scoring in this though. That's sort of my prediction for this game.
I think Rico Henry though is worth thinking about. Obviously, 4.5 million, had a great start without a clean sheet. He might play in different places based on the formation, if it's like the back five or the more attacking 4-3-3. But overall, he just seems an exciting pick. I think if I had him, I'd be very glad to have that over a 4 million like Luton defender on my bench going forwards.
He was in a lot of my preseason drafts because he actually rotated really well for the weeks that I needed him. I think it was like 4 and 6, where it's like Bournemouth and Everton, I want to say. But like he looked like a really strong option for 4.5. So, and with his assist last week. So,
yeah, I love that. So C Hunt says it's a problem if it's not back five. So I think it depends where he's playing, but overall it's a nice pick. There'll be people you'll be going against who have Flecken, and it's your way into the clean sheet.
He might get some saves, Mike Flecken. Looking at that shots on target, look, that's the thing. So that's the thing you've got to keep an eye on with that Flecken pick, is that if they do manage to sneak a clean sheet, there is some shots on target predicted, quite a few. So he could be all right. So I think that's just something just to keep an eye on there.
I think there's a lot to look at. Yeah, let's keep going. But just before that, Colin says Polinia could be involved. So obviously I think Fulham look a much worse team whenever he didn't play last season. And I don't know how far he is. Obviously, we've got Leon saying Mitro to Saudi looks imminent. And we have a Nalhala. Tell me if I'm pronouncing your name right in the chat, please. But Mitro will start against Brentford. So we have like two completely opposite views right there at the same time. And I love that. This is we're here to dispel any false narratives that even we might spout. Because I have noticed on the timeline, just this thought before we go to the next match, people will give you like an opinion on Gabriel, like rumors such as he was dropped for disciplinary because they want to keep him and they're like, he's definitely back now after this. Or they're like, oh no, it was tactical and like he might miss out, he's not rotation proof, so they're going to sell him. So be careful what you read, because everything I'm seeing on the timeline right now is everyone just saying whatever narrative fits what they're going to do already, whether it's selling or keeping an asset. So stay sharp, as Gabe says, and just keep a lookout for what looks right for your team. Don't get encouraged or convinced to go with the plan someone else has and stick to your style, I think. But anyway, so next matchup, this is more exciting for the Liverpool owners, at least.
I reckon we might have some fun with this one. Okay. Liverpool, Bournemouth. Well, first things first, I'm a Salah owner. Very happy Salah owner. Slightly disappointed from last week, but never mind. NetxG, Bournemouth's NetxG game, and it was toned down actually, because it was even higher than this before we found a tiny error in it. 2.07 for Bournemouth's NetxG at Liverpool. Liverpool's home 2.04. What else do we see? Well, my fixture difficulty doesn't follow it. It sees a fairly comfortable Liverpool win, or scoring comfortably, scoring probably a couple of goals, but not necessarily going crazy. And it also sees a possibility of a clean sheet. A possibility, but it's by no means certain. XG for Liverpool lights up 1.8, big chances 2.7, shots in the box 10.5, headers 3.2. Maybe a Van Dijk there. The shots goal predictors goes crazy for Liverpool, really likes them. Bournemouth, on the other hand, doesn't. I'm going to say this, right? Given Trent Alexander-Arnold's positioning last week, and the fact that this NetxG is really bad, I know Ducky is in the chat. Captaining Trent Alexander-Arnold, potentially. I think roasted. Roast him. Roast that duck, Gabe. Over to you.
That is so crazy. He's going to be sitting there sweating. He's going to have nightmares about your words, mate.
Roast that duck. Gabe, over to you.
Well, so captaining Trent is a terrible idea. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. Solanke, I do think Solanke will score, but I'm going to suggest that there's still an error in the NetxG data, Mariner. 2.07
Really?
Doesn't really add up. Yeah,
Well,
it doesn't really add up given.
I can't see how it's wrong. So
but that's I'm just about to tell you why it's wrong. So if you look at the creativity metric, the expected metric, and the shots metric, the NetxG should be an average of that minus the goalkeeper, right? The goalkeeper's 0, and those are 2.3, 1.4, 1.6. So we're looking at the average of that should be around like 1.7, 1.8. So I'm going to suggest that the data's still wrong here. We're going to have to take a look under the hood here after the show. So let's kind of put NetxG aside for a little bit and speak more of tactics on this one. So on the Trent thing, Trent is inverting when he goes high. So he's playing as a traditional right back for the most part. For most of the game, you see on the bottom right there, the heat map. The most orange, so like where he spends the most time, is in that right back position. As he gets forward, there is some overlapping with and connecting with Salah wide, but the deeper yellow there is on the inside. What happens to that is he pushes Szoboszlai wide, and Szoboszlai is connecting with Salah. Now this isn't necessarily a bad thing for Szoboszlai because it's making everybody else more effective. And then we see Salah's heat map there.
Gabe, you sound a bit like a robot right now. The crackling is back big time. Yeah. I thought I'd step in there while you try to get that fixed. Thanks. But we got the thing is it kind of repeats it, like it comes back the sound, so it's like you hear it twice, but the second time is in a robotic voice, so it's very confusing. But apologies for that. Colm says, who's cooking bacon? This is just escalating into a cooking show. We've had cricket, we've got cooking, and at some point you'll get FPL as well. Thank you for all 56 of you who are here. I know we're only 3 matchups in out of the 10 at 33 minutes, but we will try in the next hour to get through all of them, the captaincy metric, and get to the live Q&A. So if you've got any questions for the week, do get them in, and we'll obviously star those. We're 35 minutes in almost, and it's the first time I'm going to ask, hit that like and subscribe if you're new to check out the new episodes and enjoy the show. It'd be great to have you aboard the Net That Horse ship. But otherwise, let's keep going. I think, Chris, my question for you is, seeing as you copied my team, do you plan to captain Salah this week?
Yes.
Okay, I want to see what the captaincy.
100%.
Let's have that discussion at the captaincy metric.
100%. I intend to captain Salah this week. Gabe, are you back? Yeah. How's it work? How's things?
Check. Test.
That sounds okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Is it okay for now?
Yeah, I think so.
For now.
So carry on, Gabe. I guess. So carry on. We were talking about Trent, right? He was playing rather deep.
Yeah, well, we see the dark orange there on his heat map. He plays most of the time at that right back position, and then he inverts when he moves forward. And what happens is he moves into Szoboszlai's position, and Szoboszlai moves wide to connect with Salah. And that triangle is actually quite interesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something to monitor, including for Soboslai, because he could have some opportunities there as defenses focus on Salah and on Trent. So I think there could be some opportunities for Soboslai. But what I really like about that is I think that triangle over there is designed to get DS in space, and that's where like DS's goal came from against Chelsea. So I like DS in this matchup of. I mean, if you can get to Salah, I guess he is he's still a leader of the team, talisman and all of that. Captaining him, I don't think I would go there. I wouldn't captain a Liverpool player myself. But if you're buying a Liverpool player, like I might be, I think DS would be my target. And I still like Jota. I think his counter press will be effective against Bournemouth. But he wasn't great in that first game. So I could see like some shade there.
The Neema's brought his dog along now, so Brad, any Liverpool assets in your team?
Absolutely not. I don't know if you guys know, but to the viewers listening, I'm a Bournemouth fan, so I'm quietly confident about our season this year. We've done good business in the transfer window. I think it's gone under the radar, but it is now starting to gain some traction. I know we're looking at Tyler Adams. I think Chelsea are inevitably in for him as well. But I've seen a few people like slander this fixture and say, we're in for another 9-0, Captain Salah, get him in. But I'm not buying it. I could still see it being Liverpool scoring 2 or 3 goals, and obviously Salah could haul from that. But I think we'll put up a good show, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a score just because of the football we're playing under Areola. We look like it's almost like we're going to outscore you rather than we'll defend, sit deep and win 1-0. But he's done that before, Vallecano, so however you want to pronounce it. But it'll be an interesting one. I'm ready to be proven wrong and then have this all come back at me.
I don't think you'll be proven wrong. I think you'll score. In fact, I'd go as far as saying I think you might score twice. The trouble is, the way you're going to play, I think Liverpool score 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it, actually. They're scoring 4. You know what I mean? I've just got that funny sort of feeling. I think you're going to give them a good game. I really do. And I like the idea what Gabe mentioned about, he's mentioned Solanke at the bottom. I think I really like Solanke again. Price-wise, it really pissed me off, actually, quite frankly, to see his price so high.
It's a little bit annoying.
It was really, because I really liked him. But no, I see I'm more of a sort of like 3-1, 4-2 sort of person in this sort of game.
I'm going 3-1, and I think with our team's quite young at the moment. That's not an excuse. I'm saying that we're quite an athletic team. Like Milos Kerkez against Salah, it's going to be some battle. Like that guy just didn't stop running last week. And we got some legs in midfield with Rothwell, Billing, Cook. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one pans out from a fan point of view and obviously FPL. But I think this could be the game of the week.
I really like the look of it. I really do. And I'm very excited about captaining Salah, I've got to be honest. And I don't mind going against Haaland this week. There we go.
We'll go to the
where I am. We'll see what happens with the match with the captaincy in a bit.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Salah and the captaincy metric, I'm sure, and Haaland and others.
Yes.
But let's go to Wolves v Brighton.
Well, didn't they surprise us against Man? Well, I don't know. I let's put it this way. I didn't think it was before, actually. If I'm honest with you, I didn't think this was a great fixture for Brighton at all. But Wolves really surprised me, as I said last night on the review show. They came out, they really battled, they battled hard. I thought Manchester United never turned up, quite frankly, as well, which was another issue. But Wolves looked decent. Wolves at home are a different beast as well compared to away. So I can see this being I'm not quite sure I agree with the NetxG or the fixture difficulty here. I think there might be goals, oddly enough. I think there might be goals in this. Doesn't necessarily suggest it. It's more of a gut feel, Gabe, than anything. What's your view on this one?
I think Brighton's NetxG is it's held down a little bit by Jose Sa at home, the 0.4 goalkeeper. So if you think he might not have that kind of an impact on the game, you could bump it up to maybe 1.5 or something like that. And I think there'll be goals as well. And I think the data we have for Wolves is I think it's proving to be, well, the game week 1 suggested that it might be old data, that this might be a different kind of Wolves team set up in just in a much simpler 4-4-2 that maybe suits them. Cunha and Nunes were really great against United, and they just got around United's counter press so easily, just like dribbling around them. So I think, and especially at home, like you said, and their homecoming after a proud performance against United, I think Wolves could be up for it. And the way Wolves will attack Brighton, I think, is on the flanks. You have Pablo Sarabia hitting the right side, mostly the right side. Pablo Sarabia and our boy Neto from last season, the community favorite Neto from last season, community villain now, I guess. But I think it could be one of those, and I think Brighton are going to do what Brighton do. They're going to find overloads. They have to get the ball around that central midfield, Wolves' central midfield. So I think they're going to get the ball wide early and then go inside, and I think that favors Pedro and whoever's at the 9, and potentially Pascal Gross as he fills in. As Pedro moves, it's Pascal Gross kind of coming into that space, so he could get something here. I like that central area for Brighton more than the flanks.
Okay, Brad, which Brighton assets are you on? You said Mitoma. Have you got a Estupinian as well?
I'm tripled up, so I've got Pedro, Mitoma, and Estupinian, with a plan to actually sell the 2 attacking ones in week 3. But yeah, this could be an interesting one. I'm a big fan of Gary O'Neill for what he did for Bournemouth last year, and I think he can actually do a lot with this Wolves team. Not maybe something like a top half finish, but I think actually a lot of people thought that Wolves were relegation candidates. They've lost the manager 3 days before the start of the season, and suddenly there was a big panic. But I think they showed that actually when they've got their whole squad fit, they're actually a very, very good team. And I think O'Neill will drill them better than what they've had previously. Not to go at Lopetegui, but they were still fairly sort of boring and placid under him. A lot of 1-0 results. I guess that's what you need in a relegation fight, but they're starting from scratch here, so they could come out of the traps. But I actually think that could lead to more attacking returns for our Brighton assets. Obviously, against United, it was more of a defensive approach. Let's try and nick a goal. So hopefully it might open up the game a bit more.
Yeah, I'll tell you what is interesting, Gabe, and we see this a lot when we're looking at these. The matchups for Brighton, normally the metrics, the big chances, shots on target, shots in the box, things like that, normally are very green. They're not here. That's quite interesting. That suggests that, maybe, like I say, Wolves, although it is old Wolves, not new Wolves, so we'll have to see.
That's the thing, it's the Wolves of last year that were getting those.
It's Wolves of last season, correct. I own 2, they're going nowhere this week, and they're both playing. Pedro and Estupinian. Okay, should we keep going, Nima?
I'm playing the next. I'm playing the same players
for the
as
time.
you. As we have the same team, we obviously have the same starters.
Well, we don't quite, do we? We don't quite, because you got the Saliba leak and I didn't.
I've heard people coming on to Juice saying,
not mention that.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, I cheated," and I'm like, "Oh, is that what you guys are calling it?" Okay.
It's not cheating. Right. It's not cheating. It's just bloody irritating. That's all it is. It's nothing more.
It is pretty frustrating.
If I'd have heard it, I would have done the same move probably. I heard the Stones one, but yeah. Anyway, should we keep going?
Yeah, it is an exciting one. I think one of the games.
Yeah, another good one again. Spurs against Manchester United, and I have to say, Manchester United are going to have to improve some. I think the NetxG is only 1.18. Spurs is 1.36. So pretty neutral. Fixture difficulty like Spurs a little bit more than Manchester United actually. 1.6 for attack for Spurs fixture difficulty against 0.7. Manchester United central zone it likes Spurs wings. It likes the wings. It likes the idea of attacks down the side here. And particularly likes shots in box for Spurs, Gabe, and also headers. Over to you.
I think you nailed it with the wingers, because what Spurs can't do, and Lucien talked about this yesterday on the review show, is they don't have a 9 that runs into the half spaces. So Madison has to hold up the ball a lot and wait for the wingers to get involved. The wingers ran into a back 5 obviously against Brentford, but in this one, I think the wingers could have more success if Madison is able to hold up the ball and kind of just stay out of the reach of Casemiro. So I do like I think there's a shout for Udogi here, seeing like the NetxG and FDR are quite low. You could see like muted results. And if Udogi can get up the wing, maybe get an attacking return, he could be interesting. And then regarding United, I think you have to wait and see if Ten Hag fixes the madness that he employed last weekend.
Well, if you didn't catch Gabe's rant yesterday, Brad, it's a thing of beauty.
That sounds like I've got to watch it.
Yeah, there's a clip of it on Twitter that I think Dread's clipped. Yeah, you'll have to have a look at least the clip, but I think it looks like Chris is going to collapse in his chair laughing. But yeah, so for this fixture, what are your thoughts on Maddison? Did any of you start with him? And
yeah, I've got him. Very happy owner at the moment. Obviously, the main reason for having him is that sort of 3 to 5 game week period. But more than happy because I thought there'd be goals in that Brentford game last week. And again, I think there'll be goals this week. I think United's defence, they were very lucky to come away with a clean sheet, especially with that penalty at the end. But I could very easily see a 2-2. But yeah, both teams are scoring again, I reckon. And I think this could be a very good watch. I think this game, the Liverpool-Bournemouth game, and then what we'll go on to next, top 3 games of the week easily.
Yeah. What's the perspective of these price changes, right? If Manchester United just happen to blank again this week, I know they've got Fulham in game week 3, but the casuals will probably throw the teddies collectively out the cot and start shipping them quite quickly, I think, oddly enough.
So I looked at that to start with Bruno, but then I think it's Forest, isn't it, next week? And you can't sell him for that. But then like Spurs and Chelsea start this great fixture run, and I'm like, to take a brave player to sell Bruno before Forest to then jump on, I don't know, whoever it wants to, like Sterling, Richarlison, Maddison in midfield. But it's going to be a tricky decision to see a few next week.
Yeah, I really like Maddison. I think he's a great bet. I think he may well be coming into my team quite soon. It looks like I'm going to have to. Looks like I'm going to have to do the redistribution of an Egyptian in the not too distant future. But anyway, there we go. That's my story.
If he leaves for Saudi, then we won't even know what to do with our money. So the price.
Well, we won't need to worry about money, will we? We won't need to worry about money anymore.
We'll all have Saudi money then.
Yeah, the whole of FPL. It will be good times ahead for us. But I do like the look at his game as a neutral. I do think Richarlison as well, obviously 7 million, $500,000 cheaper than Maddison. I think it's going to come down to big swings this year between people who own either one. I know some might have both. People were talking about Son, but I'm not so sure that I was so keen yet from what we've seen thus far.
No,
I don't think cheaper. Yeah,
personally, I watched the game. I personally thought Son was pretty average, to say the least. And I'll tell you what did I describe Richarlison yesterday as, Gabe? A wheelie bin, I think. Dustbin. I thought it was awful.
So
now, look, I don't have any love for Richarlison at the best of times, but I was willing to bury my Harvey Barnes hatchet, as Gabe has, from that perspective and consider him. But at the moment, I think it's Maddison or bust for me in that team.
Still keeping an eye on Richarlison. I don't have to make that move.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm discounting, but it's just at the moment he didn't show an awful lot. Yeah.
So quick question for you guys. A lot of people are considering a move for a Liverpool player, right? Say Luis Diaz, Jota, whomever. Would you advise them to get Maddison instead if they don't already own?
Seen some people say go Diaz this week and then Maddison, but that's a lot of moves to sort of pencil in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've already seen the chaos that can happen with selection. I think there's going to be more issues with rotation this year than we've seen in previous years. Teams that You know, for example, Newcastle, who we thought were complete locks, all of a sudden are going to have Europe in a few weeks. We're going to need to be able to deal with this. There'll be inevitable injuries as well, unfortunately. Nothing changes there. I don't think you need to rush into your transfers this week, if you ask me. I said that all along, that, you know, I plan to roll this week. I maintain I will roll this week. I want to give it another week and have another look. Maddison is hot on my agenda, I have to say. He may well come in game week 3.
Yeah,
I think even if you do roll, sorry, go on, Nima, go on.
I was going to say he wants to essentially avoid this fixture. I guess it depends what you think of United's defense, but
I don't hate it. I just don't see the point in wasting me transfer this week. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I can sort of like sit in between somewhere.
If you roll as well, you can do the classic mini wildcard, 3 transfers, -4 in game week 3. I don't think that's that bad. Albeit everyone's team looks pretty well set anyway for game week 3, but 3 transfers could be a play in game week 3.
Have you heard the new one, Chris? You make the one free transfer this week and roll in game week 3 because no one wants to sell any of their players game week 3.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 in game week 4 when you apparently really need it. But my version of that is roll this.
I'm quite happy to sell Mo Salah actually at this moment in time and spread it around. And
so I think the better version of that for my team at least, it's different for every team, but is to roll this week and just do 1 free transfer next week and still have 2 in game week 4. So that's the way I'm approaching it, and it gives me an option to look at like someone like Luke Shaw, who I have, and now feel Annan as the better pick. I think he will get a lot of saves for United, and he could hoover up some bonus. I'm not sure how many clean sheets they'll keep, but it's still like 500,000 more for sure. I'm like lucky. I feel like I even got anything out of that game, as we were saying. So
I think we all are.
So moving him to like a second Chelsea player or like a second Chelsea defender and banking some money, which I would then later maybe be able to use to upgrade elsewhere and get another attacking player. That seems like something I've got on my agenda. So again, I want to watch this week because I don't know who I'm going to sell. And I'd say that's how I approach FPL is you've all talked about watch lists so far, and I do have them, but they're actually based on my out list. So I always have a list of players on the chopping blocks, as you might call it. And in every position, it's like, if I was going to sell 1 player in this position, who would it be at this moment? And that's the thing I'm constantly updating in my head, because that then escalates where do I feel my transfer has the highest upside for me, because what's the weakest link of my team? So it's like each week I'm just trying to slowly improve the weakest link in my team. And I look at my 11 this week and some people's 11s, and they look very strong already, right? So I just don't feel like I need to use it. But obviously, if you had Gabriel and you like got Saliba before price changes, like, or you got Chilwell and you know you want him long term, I think those were great moves to have made earlier in the week. But as you get closer to the deadline on Friday, and it's Wednesday now, I start to question, like, if there's no imminent price changes that will ruin what you want to get to, I would just keep waiting, because by Friday you might be able to activate both transfers on Friday. There's only 2 more days of price changes, and most of the big ones probably happened. So yeah, keep an eye on it, I would say. But yeah, that's kind of my perspective.
Wise word. Very wise.
Remember, there's a mid. Is City playing this week?
They're playing right now. I was going to read you the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't forget that, right? Don't forget that. You know, you make your early transfers and then what? You know, we've already seen it once.
As well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you the lineup. So the lineup for
let's keep going. But yeah,
go to the next game while I get the lineup going. But
which is Manchester Villa. Whoops, hang on. Oh, is it? No, hang on. It's Manchester City against Newcastle next one. I jumped at the same time. Yeah. Just whilst you're doing that, we can bring this in, Nima, as well. We'll probably bring the selection in on the back of this fixture, probably. Manchester City against Newcastle. NetxG 1.97. Newcastle 1.07. Looks like City might concede. I would have said again, but well, never looked like it last week. Home, fixed difficulty 2.4, defensive 0.9. Still likes them. XG, big chances 2.7. Who gets most of those? Shots on target 5.3. Who gets most of those? Yes. Newcastle, on the other hand, doesn't really like them. Doesn't like much about them at all, Gabe. Probably sees quite a tough day at the office for them. They weren't particularly good away from home at the end of last season either.
Yeah, but I think what we learned from game week 1 was that Newcastle have more wing play than they had last season. Whereas last season their wing play was from deeper areas Trippier, even Cher from the back line. Now they have a presence, wing play on the left side. They have it on the right side as well. And I think they'll be hitting effectively Manchester City's kind of like the corners of Manchester City, and that's going to open up things for Isak. I think Barnes starts in this one on the left, with Gordon moving over to the right, and that's going to give them so much pace on the counter attack. With delivery, especially from that right hand side, Gordon can certainly put a ball in that I think Newcastle gets something here and make this game really interesting. City are gonna do what they do, send it to like Yao Ming, send the ball to Yao Ming, the big guy up front. But I think, if I remember correctly, I think Newcastle did a decent job shutting Holland down last season. I don't remember specifically, but I think Holland struggles in that he might struggle, not struggle, but it's not the best situation for him. Let's put it that way, to be in that box between Cher, Botman, Guimaraes, and Tonali. I think Guimaraes and Tonali will certainly sit a lot deeper in this one than they did against Villa. And so because of that, I think Alvarez could be a really good play here this week. I actually like him best of the City players, aside from Holland, of course.
I really like Alvarez as well. I wish I went for him.
So let me tell you the lineup.
Nearly did pre-season. Come on, Nima.
So the lineup tonight is very strong for Man City in the Cup, Super Cup lineup. Edison in goal. Walker is the captain. Akanji, Guardiol, Aki, Rodri, Kovacic, Foden in the midfield, it looks like. Palmer, Grealish, Haaland up top. So on the bench, as you'll notice, is two players getting rested or benched, Diaz and Alvarez. So with KDB out, Alvarez sitting this game out, you do wonder if it intensifies the idea of him as a 6.5 million second City player to go for if you've got some slots open. Definitely keeping my eye on him. And yeah, that's the kind of thing you could
That could be a very nice way to spread a bit of Mo Salah money into my third striker slot. Very nice sort of stuff. Then I'd have a problem because I've got Chucky as my 4.5 Chelsea player sat waiting to come in, of course. But anyway, we'll see. Brad, Manchester City. Where are you? Obviously, everyone's a Haaland owner. Have you got any others? Yeah. Any others?
90%.
I got Stones. We were having a team talk like 3 minutes before the deadline. I'm like looking at my phone, like it's nearly 6:30, like deadline, and I got the Stones news through enough time to bench him, but I didn't know who to sell him to, so I've got Stones. I'm still a Stones owner, and I'm very glad that he's on the bench because I think that means he comes back in. With a lot of people knowing that he wasn't going to be around, they've all sold him, and so I still think I'm in a decent place because I think I've still got the best City defensive asset, at least one of the most nailed. So I'm actually benching him at the moment. I think I'm going to be Chilwell, Gabriel, and Estepinian, but happy to have him on the bench coming in if need be. And then Gehi is my second defender at home to Arsenal. So, yeah, City-wise, just to double up. But Alvarez could come in next week. It'll be him or Jackson. It'll be really tempting if I see him start against Newcastle because I think it's Sheffield United next week as well. So that'll be very tempting. Could be a haul from him.
Yeah. You see, I've got this little devil on my shoulder telling me to go to James and Chilwell at the back. For Chelsea, and then go Alvarez up top instead of Jackson. Yeah, so
I've got
it just gives me that little bit more money, doesn't it? It gives me that $500,000 more to sort of like play with going forwards. And I actually quite like the Chilwell and James sort of like double up for those fixtures. So that's where I'm sort of angling towards right now, and that's why I quite like the. That's why I quite like the idea of the Alvarez pick.
Cool. I think any Foden owners out there as well, it'll be interesting to see what the thoughts are. Obviously playing maybe in the 8th position in midfield tonight, so I'm interested to see that game actually, or some highlights after.
Yeah, just a quick question or just a quick comment. There's death, there's taxes, and there's Callum Wilson scoring in game week 1, right?
I did say every preseason that there's that one casual friend of mine who He has him every season in game week
I
one,
know.
and he always says he scores, and he always does. And it's been like years.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
But the Mo
yeah.
Salah one
No,
got broken, right? He didn't score a goal for the first time since his arrival at Liverpool in game week one. Now the new narrative is that Salah's never scored in game week two. He's always blanked. So if he broke the game week one hoop wall, I'm sure he'll be
against
fine.
Bournemouth, I'm telling you.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I think anything on Newcastle, because obviously just before we go to the next match, I just want to briefly touch on them because obviously they look very exciting, and I think very
They're
soon
electric.
we're gonna go for
Yes.
them, right? They obviously not everyone will play as high a line as Villa did, perhaps, but with centre backs at the halfway line. But you know, I do think overall Newcastle look very good, and I do think it's a question of almost like we've all gone without them because we don't know which ones we want yet. So it's like we're all kind of assessing them, and I'm interested to see if hopefully there's a bit of divergence in what everyone's kind of final destination they arrive at is, because you know you got the Botmans of the world, you got the Trippiers of the world. You then got the strikers, mids. You know, there's a lot of options here. So I think some people will be tripled up very soon. We should keep an eye on how that European rotation might hit us. But yeah, otherwise, is there anything you want to add on Newcastle before we go to the next matchup?
I mean, look, I just think at the moment, I mean, I can leave Trippier another week or two, but he's firm. I think, you know, I do like that. Even at that price, I think he could be a very, very interesting pick going forwards. I'll sit and wait. I've got to have the money. I just can't decide where to spend it really at the moment. It's a bit like, you know, you've just got a nice little pay rise, and you're thinking, right, I've got to go out and buy something. I'm just because I've got to wait another week for it to turn up. So I think once that money comes in, then I'll start thinking about it. For now, I'm all right. I really like Isak. The trouble is, how many more forwards have we got which we like right now? Quite a few. All of a sudden, we probably need an extra forward slot. Isn't it strange from where we were talking about pre-season, Gabe?
I think the problem for me with Trippier is if the delivery is coming more from the wingers now, from Barnes and from Gordon, does that make Trippier less involved in the attack? And it's just a question to leave there as we're watching Newcastle develop here.
Sounds good. Let's go.
So I mean, I'm happy to leave it for now. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, Aston Villa Everton. Let's keep going then, shall we? So, I'm surprised, actually, Gabe didn't have a rant about Unai Emery, actually. I really thought he was going to have a complete flip.
No. Everything is yesterday. No, we need people to go and watch the sub 1 hour review show.
Well, yeah, but I'm still surprised he didn't have a flip. But anyway, that said, this week, Aston Villa are at home against Everton. Aston Villa's fixture difficulty is very good, 2.6. That's because Everton, generally speaking, away from home have been really bad. Really bad. NetxG doesn't pick it. 1.23 for Aston Villa at home and Everton 0.92. What I do spot with Aston Villa is that left-sided matchup and XG and big chances. This screams Ollie Watkins for me this week, guys. It screams Ollie Watkins. Gabe?
Again, I think Diaby slips between the Everton defense better than Watkins. I think Watkins will be like the kind of creating for Diaby once again in this one, because that left side does light up, like you say, and Watkins is the target on that side. But Everton are set up to prevent shots, right? So as the ball goes to Watkins, they're going to shift hard. And I think that's going to open up opportunities for Diaby. So I really like Diaby in this one. And yeah, you're right. Like there's no rants for Unai Emery because I kind of understand what he was doing. Like you go down and he's trying to push it forward. Like the one thing was Leon Bailey's position. He put him in center midfield, and Leon Bailey's going to go wide anyway. So your central midfield areas are left lacking. But I don't think he'll repeat the same mistake here, and I think they'll shore up. They'll be able to contain Iwobi on that left side. Iwobi played well last game, so yeah, I see a comfortable win for Villa and returns for both Watkins and Diaby.
You're normally working with, it's normally stumps you're aiming at. Watkins likes to aim at posts. From my perspective, I do like Ollie Watkins though. And what's your perspective on Villa's attack, particularly now with Diaby as well?
Yeah, as a non-Watkins owner, I'm slightly worried. I know a rival of mine has him in a mini league, so I'll be behind a little sofa watching this one, I think. But I'm hoping Diaby can kind of nick the returns off him, and then Diaby really sort of comes into his own. I think it's around week 9 where Villa's fixtures start to change. Week 8, week 9, and the double up could be on. But yeah, despite the sort of result, they did look like, and they were well received in the community. It did look like there will be options for us later in the year. And I think with Villa just brings so much energy, and Everton are just almost like so sapping, like it's the real old school football. I honestly think Villa are scoring at least 2, probably 3 goals. Wouldn't be surprised at a clean sheet either.
Yeah, I do think that Watkins might get cannibalised a bit, Gabe. I do tend to agree with you a bit on this one. There's been few questions about the defence side of things. Villa clean sheet this week. Gabe, what's your perspective on that? Is it possible? NetxG is saying 0.92, but if you look at Everton's matchups, zonals are very low, XG's pretty poor, everything's quite low really. But again, there was some interesting things about Currie last week, wasn't there? Last week we spoke a bit about that yesterday. Do you think? If Mopai doesn't pay, they might score. Do you think Villa could keep a clean sheet? Here's your question: would you play your Villa defenders this week, guys? There we go.
I would.
Yes, 100%.
I'd play them. Yeah.
Over Gabriel, right?
I think someone just asked in the chat.
Yeah, Leon in the chat.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Attacking returns as well. So.
Any love for any Everton assets? Did anyone get any eyes on 4 million Braithwaite? Did he play? Does anyone know?
I don't know.
You're not playing at all. Yeah,
I've already got one.
We don't have to talk about the third bench.
By saying that, it's time to move to the next matchup.
McNeil's injured. That's the only one who would have been. That's the only one who would have been interesting for me. Would have been McNeil, but he was because he was a bit talismanic with respect to it.
But Iwobi has taken up. Iwobi played that spot in game week 1, and he did really well. Iwobi's such a good player. He does so many different things. But I think Villa that's all they have. Unless they switch out Danjuma for Maupay, then they get some kind of variable up front. But I think Villa can shut down Iwobi.
Calvert-Lewin might come back in. We knew he wasn't going to be there in week 1, so 6
then
million.
His leg will fall off. Then his leg will fall off again. So
exactly.
Trip
over his laces coming out of change rooms.
I had him every few years in draft league. I always had him in draft leagues, and then he'd play like one game for me or a sub on a game, and then he'd be gone for the rest of it. And then
this year, troll. He's an FPL troll.
He is. I think we'll keep going. Obviously, Pickford we kind of spoke about. I think if you go to the Nottingham Forest matchup, if you missed the first matchup of the show, we'll timestamp them for everyone. We did talk more about the goalkeeper conundrum there, so I think we'll kind of leave Pickford and the goalkeepers out of this conversation. Go to Crystal Palace at home against Arsenal. Yeah,
this is interesting. This is really interesting, Nima, because this is the first one we've got a significant divergence on fixture on NetxG and fixture difficulty. As you know, my fixture difficulty has a built-in evil laugh for anything to do with Arsenal, particularly away from home. And here we go again, boys. NetxG 1.76 for Arsenal and 0.98 for Palace. And then my fixture difficulty throws it completely on its head. And it really likes Palace over Arsenal, both on attack and defence, and the zonals with respect to the centre, all the zonals, and the net, and the XG, and the big chances, and the shots on target, and the shots in the box at 11.5 and 2.9. And no, Gabe, it's not broken.
It's just different.
It's just different. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being different, right?
No.
Gabe, it is a tough place to go. maybe not as tough as my fixture difficulties maybe making it out, but I wasn't too impressed with Arsenal, if I'm brutally honest with you, last week. Forest could have had a couple.
Man, I think it's broken. Look at Arsenal.
It's not. The numbers are the numbers.
Do you know what it is, Gabe?
The numbers are the numbers, right?
I spoke to Blue about this, Chris, and he was like, I'm sorry, like I'm not taking it. I'm not having this Saka like outside the top 10 captaincy metric game week 1. Like he was like, no, like something in the input is wrong. You need to fix it. So I agree with Gabe here, and I'll trash.
How many returns did he get? How many returns did he get?
Who? Blue?
Saka. Saka.
He scored a worldie, like I thought. He continued.
Yeah, how many returns did he get? How many returns? 1. How many returns did Haaland get and some of the others?
How many?
Do you see what I mean? It's net that haul, not net that return.
you keep saying that, but did he get a double digit? But he got a 10-pointer, right? So that's what a haul is. So you laugh, but your point is redundant. So as I said, 10 points is a haul. So you missed that. Thanks for clarifying that the metric is catching double-digit hauls. I'll let you catch.
No, it's not. It's not. It's catching 2 returns. It catches 2 returns. It doesn't catch the bonus points. It catches 2 returns.
Fair enough. No, I'll take that. But I think overall, though, the people who owned like Saka, Martinelli, and Saliba, you were talking about single return. I call that triple return.
Don't get me wrong. I owned Saka. I just wouldn't captain him. I owned Martinelli as well. Then I owned Gabriel, unfortunately. But
what are your thoughts there then, I guess? So, because people don't have players to sell. Some people have double Arsenal, right? But long term, you got the likes of Maddison at cheaper than Martinelli and Saka. Like, you know, Rashford is someone who people thought they were going to keep all season. Same with Bruno. They're now debating that. So, with another week's information, like, where are you going to go? It is what I mean. Like, are you going to, which midfielder are you selling to get the exciting one you want? Like, you know, are you selling like a Matoma? Salah.
It's easy. It's so easy.
I just keep saying this, but how will you sell him if he gets like a 5-goal captaincy return for you next week? You're going to tell me
what you do? Do you want me to put it on my screen? And do you want me to put it on the screen? And what you do is you press a little button. You press a little button which says transfer. Then when you press the little button with transfer, you go out, I think, and then what you do is you then select someone else, and then you go transfer in. That's how you transfer him.
But the main point is, if you didn't have Salah, like some of these Bruno teams don't, would you be selling your second United mid or your second Arsenal mid if that was 4 of your midfield with like a 6.5, right?
That is tougher. That is a lot tougher because that double-doublers, which I was set up with at the outset as well, that double United, double Arsenal, I still don't dislike it. I didn't like Manchester United, but I don't dislike that double-double.
So it's not enough to have scared you the first game week. Yeah, you want to see what United do in the next fixture before you make any rash decisions.
Definitely, Rashford decisions. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, we divest. We've had an argument about Arsenal. Now, Gabe, my metric's not broken. It's just different. Just a bit like me. Tell us about the tactics of this one.
I mean, Martinelli against Joel Ward. That's it. That's what you have to know. Like Saka, if Saka plays the way he played in game week 1, then Saka like Saka's fantastic every single week. If he plays the way he played it the game before that, then he's not, right? And then the same, but for the inverse for Havertz, for example, if Havertz plays the way he played in the Community Shield, then he's an obvious every week. If he's as involved as he was in game week 1, then he's not an option, right? Because in game week 1, Arsenal was so focused down that right-hand side that Havertz didn't really get much. In fact, Martinelli went over to the right-hand side just to get a whiff of the ball a little bit. So, but you know, so I think that the zonal is just going to be game and situation dependent for Arsenal, just kind of like whatever opens up, that's what they're going to use. But I think if we're looking player by player matchups, I think Martinelli against Joe Ward is the way you got to go here.
I think just one thing on Martinelli as well. There was a lot of talk of obviously his threat to his minutes, but the performance he put in game week 1 off the ball and the work rate, and like I saw him lose the ball and go back and take it, the hunger. Arteta actually called it out in the post-match interview and was like explicitly said, "This is what I like this week, not what I saw versus City." And he's like, and you know, when he can do this, he's like, yeah, he's going to play for me every week, every game. Like, so until the Champions League comes, I think if I was going to pick, just going back to the other question, like I'd personally be looking to sell maybe like a Bruno if I had him over like my second Arsenal attacker. But things may change, right? After another week. In terms of predictions, and let's go to the next matchup from here. What do you expect? Because obviously the FDR and the NetxG kind of diverge and disagree. What's everyone's kind of predicted scoreline? We'll clip this one and we'll see how each of us get on, and then we'll go to the next matchup. But just the scoreline.
Isn't this the last one? I think this is the last one.
No, there's two
No,
more.
There isn't.
You skipped Chelsea West Ham. We'll go back.
Did we? Did we jump past it? All right, okay. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 1-1.
1-1. Who's scoring for Palace? Eze.
Yeah, probably. I can't think of anybody else.
Fair enough. No, I think I will. Yeah, away. I think last year away from home, we were kind of top for clean sheets, and it was actually at home where we didn't keep any, mainly. And I think last year there was only one team, I think it was Fulham, who conceded as many goals when ahead at home that season, and that's like over a whole season long. So I do hope we shore up at home if we have any chances to really go for it this year. But away from home, I do feel that we might just play a more traditional back four and like respect Palace a bit more than we did at home against Forest. So I'm pretty confident that like if Zinchenko was back and he's put an Instagram post saying happy to be back, if he was going to play at left back and you got Gabriel at left centre back, I'm pretty confident in this fixture that will be a lot tighter. So I think it just depends on the whole what's the system, and that's the one thing to say about Arsenal. Maybe a reason to sell down the line is these players might change quicker than you ever imagined under Arteta. It's going to be full Pep level rotations. He's never had the chance to have this many players to do this with. But let's go to the next game, which I've skipped, as we said. So I don't know where we were with it, but I believe, or it might not even be in here. Yeah, it's not even in here.
I don't know where. Is it not there? Oh, well, anyway. Well,
got in the London derby.
Chelsea West Ham. You can get
right.
it on,
okay, let's just talk about Chelsea West Ham. Gabe, have you got your information there? So do you want to just talk about it?
Yeah, just talk it over. The podcast listeners won't miss the data.
Podcast listeners won't give a hoot.
Yeah, Chelsea West Ham. Chelsea NetxG 1.23. West Ham 1.29. Interestingly, let's see, goalkeeper involvement kind of minimal here. FDR has West Ham 1.8, Chelsea 0.2. So the FDR agrees with NetxG and liking West Ham slightly more than Chelsea. Zonals, Chelsea, West Ham's left 3.6, Chelsea center 3.3 are the two of note. The matchups we're looking at, nothing really stands out. Maybe big chance matchup for West Ham at 2.7 could indicate like 3 big chances is quite a lot. And the goal predictors slightly favor West Ham as well. In terms of the tactics, I think like what Lucien was talking about is everything from West Ham does go to Bowen, but Bowen isn't doing much with him, and it's quite low XG chances that he's getting. So Lucien was saying like West Ham are highly dependent on set pieces, and I think that could be the case here again. From Chelsea's perspective, I think a lot of people are talking about Nicolas Jackson because how many things they saw him do. But I still don't trust his finishing. I think he's extremely raw in front of goal. Even with his movements, he's going to be inconsistent. So I still prefer. I mean, I think that the best attacker on Chelsea is Chilwell for me. Oh, and the who's on pens for Chelsea? It's going to be it'll likely be Enzo Fernandez.
It's going to be Sterling.
Yeah, at 5 million. At 5 million.
It's going to be Sterling. I'm going to call it from now, guys. I'm calling it from now. You heard it here first.
We've already touched a bit on Chelsea already, Brad, haven't we? You're a Chilwell owner already, I take it?
Yeah, Chilwell and with a view for more.
Yeah. Just depends who would be. You said James.
Yeah, so James and Colwill are on the radar. Wasn't the original plan. It was actually to go double attack with Sterling and Jackson, but it's become pretty flexible because of Alvarez and Richarlison becoming options. So those two creates like a 4. And then game week 4, I'm eyeing up a defensive transfer for either Gabriel or Estepinian, depending on minutes and fixtures. for Estepinian getting slightly worse. And then it's appetite for risk really with James versus Colwill. James coming off early could actually be good if they're getting clean sheets wrapped up and get him off, wrap him up in cotton wool. But the attacking returns could be there. I saw someone mention about Colwill's bonus point potential. But if they're going 5 at the back as a regular occurrence, or even I think Potts actually said that it was actually a 4 at the back with Chilwell playing left mid. But if James and Chilwell are getting forward, I think they're no-brainers with their potential attacking returns. But the thing with them is you actually have to get on them early in week 3 because, yes, they have good fixtures from 4 to 8, but their best fixture is week 3. So you kind of don't want to miss the bus.
Yeah, I think that's roughly where I am as well. I tell you what is interesting, Gabe, how refreshing it is to actually have a guest on who doesn't have any hidden agendas about players like we do. Or doesn't appear to anyway. Or doesn't appear to. Maybe we'll find this troll out later on. Maybe you do have somewhere where you don't want to go. You know, maybe you do have a Voldemort. I do, but. Yeah, okay, cool. I think we keep going, Nima, do we?
Yeah, so there is no 10th fixture. I just realised it's obviously a blank game.
Yes, that's right. It's not
Luton.
So.
yeah,
thanks, Luton.
Bournemouth is so much better than Luton Stadium, honestly.
Yeah, you don't have to walk through someone's house to get to the ground for a start.
Well, we've done well. 1 hour 20, and we're at the end of the matchups like we were actually saying, but that's mainly because there wasn't another fixture. So thank God that helped us stick to it.
Probably wouldn't have troubled the scale. I'm going to put a cricket term in. I don't think Luton and Bolton and Burnley would have troubled the scorers.
Gone straight over
and by the way, Ducky said something earlier on. He said, "Why is duck a bad term in cricket?" Do you know what it means, a duck? Why? Do you know what a duck means, Gabe? Do you know what a duck means? There's the next question. Duck in cricket.
We'll let Bradley tell us and the listeners because it feels like only you know, Chris.
Come on.
Well,
Brad.
You break your duck, right? So
slightly different.
No, it's not that. Well, it's not that. It's not that sort.
So
good
batters' jobs score runs. So when they don't score any runs at all, they get 0. They get a duck. So say you own a defender and they score 0 points, they get a duck. So that's it basically. But there's all types of certain ducks that don't go into details like platinum ducks, golden ducks, black ducks. There's all
crispy aromatic. Crispy aromatic.
Well.
No, that's another type.
Orange duck, Peking duck,
racing duck.
Next 5 matchups, guys, very, very quickly. I'm just going to timestamp it just from the perspective people can come back and have a look at it. 1 hour 22 to come and look at it. But who stands out on fixture difficulty? Well, hardly surprisingly, the template stays very strong. Manchester City, Manchester United, Newcastle, Liverpool, Brighton, and to a slightly lesser extent, Arsenal and Spurs from attack. Manchester City, Crystal Palace, Brad, are still... Fixture difficulty really likes Crystal Palace. It's like them all the way along. It's starting to like Newcastle, but the fixture difficulty, generally speaking, is much worse for defence. So it still sticks with your attacking. Your defenders are looking for attacking returns, as far as I'm concerned. NetxG, I'll just very quickly say, almost jumps Manchester City and Arsenal out, and Newcastle, then Spurs to a slightly lesser extent. NetxG against who's best? Well, Manchester City, Luton, because they've got one less game. Oh. That's why. There we go. That is what's called. That is what's called the what is it? Unintended consequences, right? I think you've probably come across unintended consequences at work. I do. There we go. That's an unintended consequence when you take Luton's fixture out and Burnley's fixtures out. Aston Villa's very good actually as well. That's an interesting one. Zonals, Manchester United across left and centre. Really stand out. There's a number of others. Spurs right, Bournemouth left and centre, Brad. And just for big chances, I'm just going to look for big chances. Who are best for big chances? Newcastle, Manchester United, Manchester City, Brighton and Villa. The rest is all there. Okay, so the rest there, come and get it. Fast.
Yeah, so I think before the captaincy metric, I don't know if you've got another slide as well, but I don't think it's
It's just a 1 week fixtures. It's just 1 week summary. So if you just put it up for 10 seconds, that's just put it up for 10 seconds whilst we're talking. So that's at 1 hour 24. If people want to come and just look at the 1 week summary, I will be posting it on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I think that's just a good one if you want to just look for this week rather than the next 5. But we'll play the little video for the captaincy metric, the jingle, before we release who is top of the table, who is the star on the Christmas tree out here in August, as we realize summer is coming to an end and someone's going to tweet that it's only X number of days from Christmas soon. Will it be you? Who will be the first to bring back the Christmas tree circles of FPL Twitter? But that's not a challenge. That's not a challenge. Don't worry. Don't do it yet. Mariner might delete his account if he sees that. But on that note, let us know in the chat who you're captaining. I will end the poll that's been going since the start of the show, asking if you're captaining Salah. It's fluctuated throughout. There's a nice number of votes in there. So I'll also give the poll results once we do the captaincy.
Okay, well, it's very close, and it's a 2-horse race between the two people who you'd probably have expected it to be, Salah and Haaland. Now, the minutes are still not updated. We can play with the metric in a few minutes. You may find that by the time we switch or normalise the minutes, we might find that Haaland might jump slightly above Salah, but we'll see. What's the key takeaways of all this? Let me go through them for a start in order. Top 5: Salah, Haaland, Watkins, Maddison. Maddison sat there, and Gibbs White, followed by Awoniyi. So 2 Forest players sitting there. Caveat: we are using data that we have absolutely no idea with for Sheffield United. So if you are, I don't know, mad enough, but I think that's maybe the wrong term. But if you're a bit maverick enough to go for a Forest player on the back of this, the caveat is, of course, is that we don't really know much about Sheffield United. Salah, though, his last 6 for returns is top on the. This is all by percentile, Brad, just to let you know. So he's 94th on minutes, 71st on hauls, 100 on returns, 92 on points, 97 on fixture difficulty, 83 on NetxG. So they coincide quite well. NetxG again suggests he doesn't get a point for a clean sheet in captaincy, by the way. There we go. There's a little point for you. He doesn't get his clean sheet point according to this.
Neither does
big
Haaland.
Chances in. Yeah, big chance involvement. Big chance involvement, 85. Yes, Haaland doesn't anyway. And zonal involvement's 99, gives Salah a 90. Haaland, better on hauls, slightly worse on returns, slightly better on points. Fixture difficulty 90, NetxG 77, big chances 98, zonals 98. I think this is the key with Haaland, is that he's just involved in pretty much everything. Watkins, 100 involvement, big chance involvement as well. So I think he's quite interesting, but there is that deviation, Gabe, on Watkins with respect to the NetxG against the fixture difficulty, which is quite interesting. And also, Watkins doesn't haul. He just returns. So again, now the thing is, if Salah had, I'm just going to add the metric to the screen now so that we can play around with this. And the first thing I've done
for the people in the chat, this will be the way forward this season as well. If you've not tuned in, we're going to live update our narrative. So put in the chat what you want to find out, where certain players would move to.
Yeah, we're going to tweak it a little bit. But the first thing we've done actually, I've bumped Brian Mbumo's numbers minutes wise up. Okay, and I've just bumped that up, and that's pushed him up now to 3rd. Okay, you'll see that there. So he's again round and roundabout. Now, if Salah had have hauled, he would have gone to 100 almost certainly. That pushes him away from Haaland. But if Haaland's minutes are the same as Salah, that pushes him right back up to Salah. If I'm brutally honest with you, Haaland is not a bad captaincy pick at all against Newcastle. I've maybe made my bed with respect to Salah by owning him. I think for that reason, I'm probably going to captain him because I own him. I don't mind going against him a little bit, but I think I might need a big sofa.
Mbuemo's showing up here. That's
obviously we can bump Maddison's minutes up as well. Let's say to that, he bumps him up to third. Awoniyi, the troubles with Awoniyi, look, Awoniyi Gibbs White. Awoniyi's numbers have been brilliant towards the end of last season. Has he returned in 5 or 6 games, Gabe? I think he has, something like that. But his minutes are really poor, and even then he came off the bench this week, didn't he? I think he came off the bench this week again against Arsenal. He didn't start. So if that's the case, if Awoniyi started and played, he's up there as well. So
what can you
it
do
could
to
look
Jota?
Something like that.
Can you change Jota's minutes from 19th
I can.
to centre?
Yeah, I can.
How high would Jota go?
77, fourth.
Okay, that's not bad. So there's a lot of context, as Gabe says, like it shows the effect of the context on the data, as he said in the chat. So,
but whilst we're talking about roast duck and ducks and cricket and everything else, let's just bring Ducky in with his Trent captain. This is the problem. It's his NetxG against. It absolutely hates them. The attacking metric, the fixed difficulty for defence is not that bad from my side, 72. But Gabe's NetxG, it detests Liverpool. Even if it was the same as mine, 72, it's still not great. And the reason is his big chance involvement isn't there. He's not really that involved. He's not as involved, and we do tend to track big chances on this metric rather than just chances. Okay, so if you look at Trent's big chances, it's only 25, so that's quite low. But yeah, so that's roughly where it is. I'll obviously unfilter all this later on and just move it back to how it was. But Brad, I'm going to come to you first. I'd like to ask you a general question. How do you pick your captaincy? How do you pick your captains?
I'm very much a fixtures player. I guess in the past, we've actually had to make some decisions with regards to captaincy, but with the last year and this year, it's a lot more straightforward and just going for the robot. But and if an injury happens or Pep really does rotate him a lot, then it will be interesting to see sort of people where they go after Haaland. But generally, I'm looking at teams like percentage chances to score sort of 2+ goals, 3+ goals, and just how much I'm backing that player to be involved. Basically, like someone like a focal point, the sort of talisman of their team, like Eze is, Haaland, Saka, like players like those. Salah as well, obviously for Liverpool. But yeah, generally don't sort of go against the crowd too much with captaincy, despite being one of those that says, "Oh, I thought about it, but I didn't go for it," because I like to stay with the crowd, and ultimately we're judged on our ranks, I guess. So I like to play it fairly safe, I reckon.
Yeah. I mean, Gabe, I'm just going to say this. This is a sort of it's slightly different because it's two different players. And instead of being one team, it's two different teams. But it's got a bit of a game week 36 Wilson and Isak sort of feel to this to me. My gut is telling me Salah. I am scared to death of Haaland. It's the same thing.
Are you scared to death of Salah?
No.
Ownership's too low.
Well, I'm so scared to look. I've made my bed almost to lay in it because I've obviously brought Salah in. The whole plan was to captain him this week. Everything which I think about Bournemouth, everything we've spoken about Bournemouth being gung ho, attacking, everything like that. The 4-2 that we talked about earlier on, the fact that Salah's nailed. Supposedly, unless it's the Teddy coming out of the cot the other day has caused him to be benched. If that's the case, you'll hear the smash from Phoenix, Gabe, or in fact LA. I think you're there this weekend. But no, I'm very happy captaining from Salah from a perspective. I've got the reasoning behind captaining Salah.
Yeah.
Obviously I can see that Haaland's a good captaincy shout too, and the
I
EO's
think-
going to be there with him.
I think probably the fear is coming from the ownership, and the desire to captain Salah is coming from your analysis. So I would say just trust your gut and your own analysis, and to hell with ownership. Just like go with your analysis. I'm doing the opposite, obviously, but I think I'm just going with the ownership captaincy pick every single week. I don't care.
You know what
So,
you've done there, Gabe? You've brought back the old, is it Gameweek 9 Havertz gate when it was against Norwich and Salah went mental against Man United? It's going to be roles reversed now. Haaland hat-trick, Salah goes off injured, 50th minute. Thanks for coming. Cheers.
Get sold to Salah
could come-
the following game week.
It could come back and absolutely haunt me, but I'm doing it for a reason, And again, I think,
Gotta do it for
generally
content.
speaking, I'm not just using the stats. I've got the context behind the way that Bournemouth expect to set up and expect to play. And for that reason, I think that reason alone tells me that I think I'm cementing my stats rather than unpicking them.
Don't worry,
If you
I'll
get
help
me.
you lose your dilemma, Chris. It's going to be angry Salah playing. He's gonna
angry Salah, yeah.
Angry
If he's
Salah,
benched,
He'll be
if he's
benched for
benched,
his
if
tantrums.
he's benched, it'll be angry Mariner.
as long as there's a player like as highly owned as Haaland in the game, I think captaincy is dead in FPL.
It is,
like
isn't it?
Doug
It's so
Tucky says it in
boring.
the chat, right? He
And
says
I'm happy for it. I'm glad it's dead. May it stay buried 6 feet under.
it makes
never-
it less
never to
swingy.
arise.
Yeah, it makes it less swingy for me throughout the season games.
Yeah.
I focus on my rest of my team, but that's why I'm also going with Salah like Mariner, because end of the day, like I had him for this week. I wanted to try and get a good swing. If it goes wrong, we survived like 30, 40 point swings on Salah last season at points, and we came back in our seasons. So people were getting really angry over like 3-4 points here and there between like Gabriel and Saliba in Gameweek 1 saying that they're going to quit FPL Twitter, delete their account. Like I was like, it's 3-4 points, man, from like a defender that's 5 million. We faced much worse last season, and most of us like carried on. We trotted through. We didn't let the
website crashes as well.
Yeah, the website always crashes, which is it's a good one. But I think
Trying to get me to swear. It's that you're trying to get me to swear, Brad, aren't you? That's what it is. You're trying to get me to swear about.
Why don't we go to the live Q&A? We have about 14 questions so far started.
Yes.
We'll get Bradley's opinion on some of these as well.
Absolutely, Brad. You're about to get. We've got the opening bowler. We've got the opening bowler coming screaming in at you now. So all these questions are all coming flying at you. So that's what you're here for.
If you've enjoyed this show, guys, if you found it entertaining, you've laughed with us or at us, please do hit that like button. I think there's been over 50 people here most of the show. It's been a pleasure to have you here with us this Wednesday evening. But yeah, let's go to the first one. So this one is a straight kind of transfer or save one. So as you can imagine, I think it's a common dilemma in Game Week 2. So Nalanla, they ask, all I need to know is, should I do Foden to Mobuemo or save the transfer?
Save. Easy. Next.
Save. Next.
Yeah.
Kohnberger, we're just going to put this back up about the disrespect saying you're not a batsman. I think the way it works, right, is it's one of these things where like Mariner's talking about like in the 1% of the 1%, so like the professional athletes and then the 1% within those at certain skills. So obviously, I imagine in bowling you would consider yourself like way higher seeded in the country or the county than obviously you would for the batting. But overall, though, I bet your batting is still probably like better than 99.9% of the population.
Be a lot better than mine. Be a lot better than mine now. I get run out as much as Inzamam ul Haq. I think Nima, just to let you know, he was a bit portly.
I see. So okay, so you know him well. So we also have a Brentford attack seems juicy without seeing the FDR. That's just a comment from C Hunt I wanted to put up there. For Tim Evans asks, are West Ham the weakest down their left or their right? So I'll just put up on the screen what we had the Game Week 2 summary quickly while we're here. So who are we talking about? West Ham.
So West Ham are playing Chelsea. So we're looking for Chelsea's matchup. They're not weak. They're about the same.
Yeah, so it's 3.3 through the center for Chelsea, right? And then
about the same. There's nothing there really.
cool. All right, let's keep going then. We'll remove this again. Going back to this. So we have from Combe, he asked, is it worth making a transfer this game week, even if you don't have any injuries, or just roll? I've been looking at the upcoming fixtures and I feel that I might burn a transfer in game week 3. Do you remember last season when a lot of people ended up like debating whether to burn a transfer in game week 3 or did Andreas to De Silva because they didn't want to
messed
burn
about
one?
with 5.5 midfielders for like 3 weeks, going from Visser to Gordon. I think I was doing that, but yeah,
It was a wild time. So
ridiculous.
could that happen
It
again
was.
in game week 3? Like, is it worth maybe even with no problems this week? It's so team dependent, isn't it? We can't really help Combe here.
I reckon there is something that you could change. There has to be, and I don't think you should. I think I can see an easy roll in game week 3, but not a burn. I think I would move this week if you actually are burning a transfer in game week 3. I think there are stuff to be done this week.
Yeah, that's fair. And if you think you're gonna burn, definitely use it. Otherwise, you could still roll. And next week, instead of burning the 2 free transfers, you could just use one and roll again to And by that point, there might even just be a 4 million to 4 million swap on the bench in the goal. The other news might, Archer might sign for Sheffield United by then, hopefully, before a price drop hurts my team. So let's keep going.
Well, just really quickly, I think what Colm brings up here is that there are a lot of good fixtures, like easy fixtures in game week 3, and a lot of people are rolling in game week 2. So I think many managers are going to see themselves with a team full of good fixtures and 2 free transfers, and they may have plans for those transfers, and you can make the fixtures, and then you're going to have a benching headache. So it's just to have a little foresight in terms of don't roll automatically this week, just to have 2 next week. Like
check what your team looks like.
Check what your team looks like next week.
What would you do?
It might be worth using one this week so you don't burn one later.
But remember, I just again caution you, right? We only know there's only been one game. Next week we'll know at the end of game week 2 we know 50% more. Game week 3 we know 33% more. Game week 4 another 20% more. Game week 5. 25%, game week 5, 20% more, and on and on and on. Moving too early, sometimes, moving for the sake of it, I don't agree with. I genuinely don't. I mean, I'm very much that type of more of a sort of like, for once, a patient Chris. It's not very often that patient Chris comes out.
You heard from Mark, FPL General's golden tips for FPL when he came on the Midfielders show. It's inspired you.
Well, I mean, look, let's face it. Probably the calmest person I've ever spoken to about FPL in all the years I've been involved. I've not been involved that many years, but in YouTube for years, and it's very true. You've got to listen to these things. Don't move things happen. Injuries happen, right? Things change. We might be a lot this time next week. We could be a lot clearer about what's happening.
Do you know the way I look at it, Chris? So for me,
be careful. Be careful.
Yeah. So my thing is, if I've got 11 I'm willing to play, or if I'm already like benching one person, I've got a benching headache. Like some people asking in the Discord, the haulers, they were already benching the likes of one of Jackson, DRB, or like a Gabriel or something, or Saliba even. So I was like, like what's the upside really? Like moving a 5 million or 4.5 million defender to another one of those. And then next week, one of your key players gets injured or something, or someone huge comes through with like a big price rise, and you're now one transfer behind everyone else. And you've changed the position that, like, okay, if I get it, if it's like a chill ball, you want the long term, but generally, what is the points difference they're going to gain in that week that you got them early before everyone else? Like, was it worth an extra 4 points from a 4.5 million defender if you even get the gain? To now not be able to act on double the information, as Chris says, next week. So for me, it's more about information, I think, and just not trying to kind of make transfers that don't have big upside. And I don't think I'd ever burn next week. Even if my whole 11 looks great, I would sell players from good teams. I would do it. Like I would sell United or Arsenal player, whoever I need to sell to get the next two if I'm going to make a big move. Because end of the day, you said we need to stop being afraid. We're also afraid about the captaincy against Haaland. That's fine. Yeah. But don't then be afraid.
What did we say in pre-season?
That's where the fun is now. It's the other
exactly. And what did we say in pre-season about stop being afraid? Stop being afraid, but also be a little bit, also be just that little bit more, just take a breath every now and again. Don't knee-jerk. Don't react too much. Brad, you strike me as a planner. You're a bit of a planner, aren't you?
Yeah. Two top
Yeah.
two
I actually
Ks for
think-
anyone who missed it.
I think this is where I actually gain a lot more on people, because like casual players will ask me like, "Oh, how do you do so well?" And I'm like, "Well, I plan it all like 5-6 weeks in advance," and obviously, and then I get like the content creators out there as well, and the more engaged managers will sometimes advise against it, and I get the whole reasoning behind it. Like one injury happens and your whole plan tears it up and stuff, but I like the plans are always fairly adaptable. Like I said in my game week 3 plans, it's not Sterling and Jackson are coming in. I've got like 4 or 5 different avenues it can all go down, and I think it's one of the best tools to be able to plan in advance. And I know when I'm doing well and climbing ranks, it's when my team sticks to that plan and I've suddenly got 11 green fixtures, and then the next week I rotate 1 in, 1 out, another set of 11 green fixtures, and then I'm like, well, you're laughing at me for planning 5-6 weeks in advance, but you know, like for example, I've already earmarked a game week 9 wildcard, and I'm looking at fixture swings already just to try and get any gain that I can now on people, because there's so much data out there. Like everyone's got good teams to start with, and like any bit of help that you can get, I'm there for it.
But you got to wait for the
No.
people to make the mistakes. That's what I love with the planning, right?
Yeah.
So like right now,
Yeah.
someone was telling me, it's like 9 days before you can even make like the next game week 3 deadline. And this was like a few days ago. They were like, like in 9 days time, I might feel very differently about a lot of what I've just said tonight. It's a long time to wait, and I can see you get itchy fingers. You see rising assets, you see dropping assets. You go away from your plan. You spend months planning this game week 1 team, and now it's like, let me just throw them all out. So I think you're right. The last edge is trying to find the time when maybe you identify as a chance to reset your team, because I think the first wildcard this season will be a lot more important than last season without the unlimited transfers at the World Cup.
Without the extra
100%.
one, yes.
So you could be waiting a long
totally.
time till your second wildcard. If you wildcard, say, game week 8, 9, as you say, you want to set that far. You want to plan, like you're saying, because you might not do it again till 28. Like that's another 20 game weeks.
This middle period will be long. If I do go in game week 9, then I think James on Planet FPL was talking about some of the double game weeks, and he was talking like mid game week 20s, and then some of the later double game weeks are way back in like 36, 37.
36,
and it's like
37, yeah.
You're not going to wildcard in 35, so that second wildcard might be coming in 25 to 28, and then you have a 10-week stretch at the end. So that middle period will be quite long for me, but I always feel that first year that I had a great year, I started off and went off like a train, and then I kind of just held my own, and I lost a bit of ground at the end of the season, but then I did it completely differently last year. I was sort of 50k, then 10k, and then I dropped again, and then the end of the season just went on a mass run because it suited the planners because of all the double game weeks, and it basically just led to a lot of opportunities. But that middle period could be me defending a bit if people are waiting on sort of a game week 13 to sort of 18 wildcard.
No pressure, but I'll be rooting for the third top 2k finish for you. I give them as 1ks. I call them 1k. It starts with a 1.
I'm calling them 1ks. Yeah.
A lot of people have been giving me aggro on Twitter
on
about that. Yeah, I'm like, no, man, I'm giving that 1k, man.
I was on for a 2-figure finish, and then I listened to Nima.
No, you still say this, but it was your own decision. I told you don't buy Werner.
I'll never forgive you. Yeah, it's okay. Should we take some more questions? But no, honestly, Brad, it's really interesting what you're saying. I hope the haulers have took it on board, because you talk a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, that was really interesting to hear about your process as well. FPL Rubber Ducky, would you drop a Brighton player for Chucky? I've got Chucky, and I'm worried that I'm worried that he's blocking like my third Chelsea spot now that I've got him.
I'm worried about him actually.
The 11.
What was Elise out for? Because he's rumoured to come to them as well, isn't he?
Yeah, there's a lot.
I think it's quite a while.
Caicedo hasn't started yet.
And he's 4.5 million. It's 4.5 million. At the end of the day, once you've got these couple of, I just need to get him through game week 3 and 4, and then potentially I can start thinking and decide what to do with him. Yeah. I mean, look, for me, I just look at it and think, now we've only really got Jackson as an option up front, and there's a lot of rotation going on, and I'm not that keen on Sterling, quite frankly. I think I'm quite happy with 2 defenders and Chucky at the moment to go in.
That's my debate.
Cool. I think Alex Martin asks, who would you
That's a
bench
tough one.
out of Bruno, Rashford, Pedro, and Diaby? Now, this is
I
a
think
tough one.
The best one is Diaby. So you're playing Diaby, no question. I think that's purely on fixture. I think Rashford's better than Bruno, so you've got to play Rashford. And then I
it
think
comes
it's
between the
Bruno
other two.
versus João Pedro.
For me, I could never. So for me, I love how you've done it based on the fixtures. As you
8.5.
say, you're a fixture
Yeah.
manager. I would be
Yeah.
picking between Pedro and Diaby all day. Like if
No,
I had Bruno now and I missed,
striker almost.
but imagine it's like you didn't go for Salah for game week 2. Bruno is the one in that slot, and then he's not going to play. I don't know if
And
I
then
can do that to myself.
I guess the other thing that comes into it is ownership, but they're all. I mean, Diaby's your biggest differential that wouldn't hurt you if the other 3 did haul.
That's the way I might have looked at it. Yeah, on the ownership
For
early
me,
on in the pack.
I'd be tempted to go João Pedro bench.
Yeah,
It's him
I think
or
I'd do
Bruno.
the same.
I think
I know you.
I see the disappointment from Gabe, but we'll keep going.
I can't bench an 8.5 million player. I can't bench an 8.5 million player. I can't do it.
The other thing.
Price does not equal points.
I know.
Right,
I know.
It's just
You can't trade him in. Or like, I have the most expensive. No, it doesn't work that way. You want to get the players with the
João
points.
Pedro needs to be punished for that 6-yard open goal miss as well. He needs to sit
True.
on people's benches.
That's a fair point.
And we were
actually.
bigging up Wolves. But,
But I mean,
I presume, Alex, you must have like 8 attackers to be benching one of those 4.
If there's like a defender you're playing, if you're playing like 4 defenders again over one of these,
there's got to be a defender you can bin off.
Yeah, let us know if you're in a free man back
I
shape.
agree.
So chat asked who captained Salah this week. You'd bench Bruno. Okay, well it's good to get that answer in for Alex. Just in case.
Who captained Salah this week? Who is captaining Salah this week? I am.
Yeah.
We already know you are, so it's this
Don't
one's not for you. This one's for the poll. So the poll we ran, we just ended it. It was like, will you captain Salah? There was 65 votes in the live chat. It ended up much closer once the numbers went up, but it's 47% they will captain Salah, 52% won't captain Salah, and don't ask me what happened to the other 1%. Must be a rounding thing from Google. Someone is missing.
So Salah's what? 15, 20, what? 25% owned?
I presume this was just for who owned Salah, they said.
It's just in this chat. Yeah.
I'm just trying to roughly work out where he's going to be. I mean, at least Haaland's EO is going to be down a tiny bit if there are people jumping towards Salah. But Salah's price hasn't gone up yet, has it? Salah's price hasn't gone up yet.
No, but his price is never going to change. It's same.
It's not going to go up.
Only
idiots own him as well.
You're going to try sell him in a week.
Like, well, I'm going to sell him in a week or two. Yeah,
this idiot thought he's going to get.
Who cares?
He thought he's going to get a quick Ponzi scheme out of it, like raise 0.2 million.
I just wish he'd scored that. I just wish he'd scored that other goal last week because then everyone would have lumped on. I might have made a 0.1 on it. He might have gone up 0.2. I could have sold him at 12.6. Happy days. See you later.
Right, from Leon.
Made me profit.
Do you play Cash over someone like Gabriel, Matty Cash? We said we like the Villa fixture. I think I would with the uncertainty. Gabe asked, Badia Shield a risk to Colwell. So I think that is his main risk, right? And he's obviously on the way back from injury. Another new signing, he's mainly like a right centre-back cover for Thiago Silva. So there is a question, how long is Colwell nailed for? And I guess that's why you didn't go for him in game week 1, isn't it, Mariner?
That's the reason why I didn't go for him. Because I thought, I didn't want to waste a transfer on a 4.5 defender. So
I need to see what happens.
And as it happens, I ended up with Gabriel.
Yeah, that's probably where you also took the money out of Banana into Pickford as well. So that's a double whammy for you. But I just thought I'd lay that dagger in early game week 1. I'm beating you this season, so I'm back. I'm back with a vengeance. Do you know how?
Are we tracking captain metric performance this year? Yes, we are. It fucked up.
You have to.
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, he didn't do very well. I still smarting by that, though. I have to say. I mean, it was really. That Manchester United performance was pants. I never saw it coming. Did anyone see it coming?
No.
I think let's keep going.
Lucky I'm not having that. Bournemouth for scoring, by the way.
Yeah, so exactly. He asked to the podcast listeners, explain to me if Salah is a good pick in the captaincy metric, Trent has to be up there too.
Salah's a midfielder, Trent's a defender. Trent relies on clean sheets, Salah doesn't.
I don't know, Ducky. Are you still going to?
I'm afraid. Crispy aromatic duck.
So Andy Martin in the house as well. He's having his lunch break. Good evening, mate. I've gone off Trent captain, but I feel that's just because he's come off a 1-pointer. Trent or Haaland cap this week. I think if I had both, I'd be going Haaland right now.
100%.
Yeah,
Go Haaland.
safety
Rubber
as
ducky.
well.
This is a
Take
good
your
one.
own.
We'll start with you, Brad. What's your favorite duck sauce?
Oh, no idea.
We said so many
I'm a pretty
earlier.
plain eater.
I spent most of my time in a Chinese takeaway after a game of cricket. I'm disappointed in you.
I'll go with hoisin. I'll go with hoisin. But
Can't say
yeah, I
I've
agree.
been out
Hoisin, yeah.
So we've got two
Yeah.
final questions. We've got Robert Ducky. Would you take a -4 to save 0.1 million, which is effectively 0.5 million at this? So I guess that's like your player's dropping or the player you want is rising. And when that happens, it's not a like-for-like swap anymore. Now you need to have another 500,000 downgraded in another position to be able to make that move. But it's for a -4. So like, I love how you've asked this without the players.
Definitely.
Because then we can't
Yes.
be biased
Yeah,
about the
that's
players
right.
in the question.
He's maybe selling Trent.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
If it involves selling Trent, then do it, Ducky.
I wouldn't do it for
Yeah.
0.1 Ducky. I think for me, what I'm going to do this
Yeah.
season is not focus on price changes. I did it less last year, but I want to actively avoid it. I just want to see what they are when they're announced the next day. I don't look to be at these websites at night anymore and like waiting to go to bed to see if I should make a transfer. Like, no. If it doesn't work, if a player goes out of my reach, I will buy someone else. That's what I've told myself. Like, I'm going to be focused. I'll buy someone else. I'm just not. I can't do it. I'm sorry, bro.
Coming close to the deadline, there's so much value in waiting.
With
right,
that value now when so many teams are
says
the same.
The guy that got hurt twice by the website crash last week.
So the final question from FFA, I've got Havertz in as a punt, but after the Forest performance, I'm slightly regretting it. Should I cut my losses and sell him for someone like Maddison or Diaz? So Diaz obviously has the Bournemouth home fixture.
Like
Maddison's got United. Maddison, especially longer term, looks a great pick. What are your guys' thoughts? Would you, if you had Havertz now, would you just sell him for this?
I'd tend to jump off. Yeah, I think
who for?
Well, Maddison or Diaz. So let's say if you were going to do it,
slightly longer term view. I think
I would go Maddison
Diaz
as well
does look
because
nailed, to be fair, but
I like Diaz, but I just have that horrible feeling that Maddison, everything's going to go. There's so much going to go through Maddison, really, compared to. I think Diaz is. He just got that slight risk. I think that's why I think I'd go Maddison.
So one thing I will say to you, FFA, is I think like there's gonna be a lot more like opposition specific lineups from Arteta, and I think Eddie got his run out and he did great, and like obviously like there's gonna be competition there, but the other thing to keep in mind is Jesus isn't as far away as people think. So like I imagine he could be on the bench by the game week 3 at Fulham. So long term, I think like if you believe that him coming in and being way more technically gifted and being able to play with his back to goal more than Eddie, for example, he can bring out the best of the rest of them. And maybe that does allow Havertz more opportunities. One thing I will say is Havertz from an attacking point of view was pretty disappointing in that last game. But I think it's what he did off the ball that was interesting, like trying to block like passing lanes. And he was always kind of like dragging players up and down the pitch. So I'd love to see more from him getting into the box. But I just think with that lineup and that left-hand pod, that's why I think we were so dependent on the right, Gabe, because at least that kind of link up between the likes of White and, Saka and Odegaard, like it's a system that they've been used to. On that left, you're bringing in Declan Rice, you're bringing in Havertz, Martinelli's playing with them, then you had Timber for a while, then you've got Tomiyasu. Like Martinelli's playing with like 2 different people out of the 3-man pod from last season. So it's going to take some time for those relationships to form. So I wouldn't necessarily give up on Havertz yet. I still believe that, I would almost wait and see what the presser is like. See what, if Arteta says anything encouraging about him. I promise it's not like Pep where he talks them up about being undroppable and always benches them the next game. Hopefully you'll get some context from him. So, and we got the Arsenal news last week on Friday night, right? For a Saturday game. So it's another Friday deadline. I know Arsenal ain't going to be an early kickoff, but you're going to kick yourself if you hear that he's starting against like a whole different type of Arsenal team and he's going to end up getting like a very good chance to score, because I think he will get himself in the positions. That's kind of my final thought, and then we'll get out of here. Ducky says, if you watch the game again, Havertz got into the right positions. He never received the ball. So, no one was finding him because everyone was just going through the right. And that's why Martinelli as well tried to come to the right half space, as Gabe said, to just get the ball. But 2 hours in, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Bradley. Where can they find you on Twitter if they've just tuned in?
So it's FPL Schofield on Twitter. I've just sort of been sort of keeping it quite low key for the sort of pre-season, not revealing too much of my plans. But I think off the back of this, I'll be pretty active and sort of getting back on the grind with it all. And then when the cricket season finishes, it's purely FPL focused. So yeah, I'm on there's Twitter.
Sounds good. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you. We'll obviously put a link to Bradley's profile as well. FPL Schofield, it says any Prison Break fans out there, shout out to all of you. Yeah, so we'll put the link there. You can follow him on Twitter. And yeah, it's just been a pleasure, man. We'll be back next week. We'll announce, I think Wednesday will be the matchup show for Game Week 3, but we'll kind of give confirmations in the tweets soon. Mariner, get some sleep. Gabe, I guess it's maybe time to continue with your day. It's only like halfway through. But yeah, thank you for everyone for tuning in. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Leave a review if you're listening on podcast, on Spotify or Apple or wherever else. And yeah, I think we'll give a few updates next week as well about the Discord and some other interesting stuff that's happening. But for now, 2 episodes in 2 days. Go through and get your teeth in them, and the timestamps will be there. So here we go. Thank you, Bradley. We're looking forward to that third top 10K in 3 years and seeing your 3-year manager rank next season when you come back onto the show and maybe take over the captaincy from Mariner with his broken.
No. Bradley, you're welcome, mate. Honestly, you're welcome. I'm just getting shot down every 5 seconds, but it's fine. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on, Brad. I really appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, Bradley.